plenty of perspiration. Now we're seeing inspiration.
Listen to the noise. This is to tie the match up.
It all would have been there for him. He's got it!
And for me, the shock of the tournament.
Magnificent, marvellous, magical.
Friday at a Matchroom Open event, the day that the 64 players who made it to single elimination are quartered down to the 16 who'll survive through to the weekend. And if you get that far, you're just 4 matches away from winning the title. UK Open was first stage 2 years ago, won by Joshua Filler. He almost retained it 12 months ago, but was beaten in the final by a wonderful performance from Albania's Eklund Kaci. Both of those players are still very much involved in the hunt for this year's UK Open. After 2 years in London, we have moved here to Telford for the first time. And it's last 64 matches going on at the moment, and you can see there some of the contests that are in progress. Skylar Woodward, one of the 7 American players who have made it this far, is now on the hill at 9-8 against Torsten Homan. Lu Ri Teng also looking for one more. 9-6 up against Duong Kwa Kwang. Now that would be a notable win if he could complete it, because Duong came in wonderful form, having won the Scottish Open from a stellar field in Glasgow last weekend. Albin Ocean had his struggles yesterday, but he made it through to the final 64, and he now leads 8-5 against Daniel Maciol. Copigny also a couple away from the next round. Last year's World Masters champion leads Jose Alberto Delgado 8-6. James Aranis, World Cup winner last summer, 4-2 ahead of Nicholas Dorr from Germany, who's made a real name for himself here this week. And in the All-Philippines clash, it's 3-1 for Marvin Assis over Bernie Regalario. Former World and US Open champion Carlo Biado has taken the first couple of racks against Simon Kural. Anton Raga leads Nikos Economopoulos 4-2. Denmark's Mickey Kraus has a 3-0 lead over Georgi Georgiev. And that brings you right up to date with everything that's going on. Jeremy Jones is alongside me. Great to have your company as always, Jeremy. And you must be very pleased to see 7 Americans still in at this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, fighting hard. We lost a couple, maybe just Billy Thorpe so far against Ignacio. It looked like Skyler was in position to run out up 9-8 when I walked by. So yeah, the Americans looking good. And really the ones that didn't make it were right there at qualification, fighting hard. So good things for the USA. Another American coming up here, Oscar Dominguez. Seems like he's in as good a form as he's been ever, really. I think spending all this time playing these events and, of course, putting in the training is paying off. Really had what looked like an easy road. Not easy draw. There are no easy draws to qualify, but he made the matches look easy overall.
Yeah, came here after getting to the final of that Scottish Open last week, and again, I keep making this point, that might sound like it's a small-time event, but it was certainly not a small-time field by any means. It was a wonderful event, and to get to the final of that, you had to play very well. You had to beat some very good players, among them Joshua Filler. So any tournament that you've beat Joshua Filler in, you know you've had a good week.
Yeah, and even more impressive, I think, a close one at that with Filler. So there was a lot of heat, a lot of nerves probably going. You know, it wasn't just a runaway where he just got all the shots and maybe Filler played some so-so shots. It was a tight one, which I think will benefit Oscar in the long run.
Now, tickets are still available for this event on the screen, but not many of them because the priority sale started earlier in the week and it's almost sold out now. The Mosconi Cup going to Florida for the first time later in the year. So get on to matchroompool.com and get your tickets. The chance won't be there for much longer.
Looks like 2 pretty decent lags, but Lechner to get it, so he'll break first. The break, of course, sounds like it doesn't mean as much the way the tables are playing, but to get out and break the balls first and maybe get a lead, get to knock some balls in early, always serves its purpose.
Alban Ocean, the latest player to move to the hill, 9-5 now he leads Daniel Maciol. Lechner versus Dominguez. Well, the break might mean quite a bit in this match, Jeremy, if Lechner keeps doing it like that.
Yeah, well, that's one of his strengths for sure. And I think Max, to be fair, I think he has to get a little used to these tighter tables, maybe settle the stroke down a bit at times. He's got so much power, can kind of overcome tables a lot of times, but these aren't the ones to try and do that this week. They're very difficult.
Lechner from Austria. He'll be 34 later this month, currently 14th in the world rankings, the same place he started the year in. He had been in the top 10 going into 2023, largely off the back of that run to within a few racks of winning the US Open in late 2022.
Yeah, nice opener. I like what he did there, just kind of simplifying it, knowing he's going to probably run into the purple. Was hoping for the other side of the purple to get a little better shot at the red 3, but now just again, that's why these early racks, of course, can be difficult, but if you can knock a couple nice ones in, make a nice clearance here to open, it goes a long ways in a tough 3-ball here. You can tell, of course, these players want it so bad, and the conditions are so tough. Going to be a long day here Friday. to get into that final 16.
So an opening for Oscar Dominguez, who will be 40 next year. He's actually climbed a few places to 43 in the world since the start of this year, but he's definitely going to climb further because points for the Scottish Open haven't been applied yet, and he'll have plenty of those. He actually comes here having been in the final of both of the last 2 ranking events on the World 9-Ball Tour.
Yeah, and just like talked about at the Scottish Open, you know, that's a nice tournament, of course. Always want to win some cash. It paid well for a smaller ranking event, but the matches, that's what you can't replace. That's what really is going to help with a lot of these players. Could have got a little more out of the cue ball. Surprised he didn't draw it a bit more. Not really too tough of a shot, but a little bit of a tester. And Oscar, I think that ranking would have been higher, but last year in 23, he didn't play much early. Started to come out more, and you might say the fall, and then into the, you know, the picking of the Mosconi Cup kind of time, and had some good results. It was as a captain, it was really hard to kind of overlook him, but I think, especially the way he played the year before, but I think it was time for Shane Wolford to make that team.
Well, Dominguez reached the last 32 of 2 of these Matchroom Open events in the course of 2023. The Hanoi Open, where he was beaten by Kyle Amoroto, and the US Open as well, where he lost to Max Lechner. Now, that's someone who I'm sure you'll recognize, Kyron Wilson. 4 days into his reign as World Snooker Champion. It was wonderful to be in the Crucible Arena on Monday night. I went up and spoke to him earlier and told him when he broke down in tears, there was a tear in my eye as well. And if you've ever met Kyron, I think you'll know why that is. Those of us who've known him for years know just what a fantastic guy he is and how hard he works, and just what a great person he is to deal with. And he'll be a wonderful ambassador for snooker over the next 12 months, which sounds like a bit of a cliche, but in his case, it's just so true. And the reason he's here is that his son Bailey is playing in the junior event. We'll update you on his progress later on. The Jason Shaw Junior Open.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. And, more of it. I got to watch him play quite a bit while I was there in Scotland, and the snooker was on, and his composure to me was by far the best that I saw out of all the players. I'm sure that's probably one of his strengths.
Yeah, and no doubt he was actually the best player over the course of the 2 weeks it takes to win the World Championship. What Max Lechner had the chance to do there early on was win that rack off the break, because it set him up nicely. It wasn't to be, though. He left the chance for Oscar Dominguez, and the American has taken the first. Skylar Woodward, another American, is through. He has now closed it out at 10-8 against the former world champion Torsten Homan. And there could be quite a flurry of winners now in the next few minutes, because several players are on the hill. Lu Ri-Teng at 9-6 against Wang Kwok Wang. Albin Ocean, as I was saying, at 9-5 over Daniel Maciol. And Ko Pin Yi is also just looking for one more rack. He leads Jose Alberto Delgado by 9 racks to 6.
And Delgado got to be playing a fine match. He's really turned it on since that early loss, and the way Ko Pin Yi's been playing, to have that score at 9-6, pretty competitive match. Oh, he hit those way thick. Probably the thickest hit I've seen on the one all week. Just maybe a little quick. And sometimes you never know, you know. I mean, I haven't got to watch Oscar much this week, just a couple racks. And, you know, these players are trying to figure out different breaks all the time. So, got to believe that was a miss hit, though, on the one. And Lechner in these situations, especially on the tighter box, I think, pretty traditional to start a little slower, maybe have a mistake or two, and then really picks it up. But these, you know, you can't really bury yourself too far in these matches. Just too difficult against these players. Going to come 2 rails off the one between the 6 and the 5. Trying to use the 6 ball. That's going to leak a little. Pretty good stuff overall.
Yeah, it was 10-7 when these two met in the last 32 of the US Open. Lechner went on to get to the quarterfinals for the third year in a row at the US Open, and was beaten by the eventual champion Ko Ping Chung.
Yeah, it's a fine line, I think, with a lot of these players, and it's a hard mixture to be out there working. Plus, you have to remember you're still playing a game. You're still playing a sport. Sometimes I feel like Max, he gets a little more in the working side of things, and I think that can build pressure at times.
Explain to us a bit more, if you would, Jeremy, what exactly you mean by that.
Well, you know, if you ever got to watch Efren, a lot of players, you can tell they're out there enjoying it. They're playing the game, you know, a little bit. Kind of, it's almost like making a tough shot. You know, when you're playing well, you almost get into a tough shot. You really, you know, want to overcome it versus fearing it, and then some things become, you know, a little more like you fear everything. But the work, I think, the working mentality, if you overdo it, builds stress. And, you know, that's something we want to stay away from in pool, because it's going to be there. If you add some to it, it's going to be problems.
I think one thing that applies across the board in every sport, whether it's absolute world-class elite level that you have played at, or just the absolute bottom levels of the game, someone playing in a club who plays occasionally, it's a universal truth of any sport. The more you enjoy it, the better you're going to play, whether you're a top player or just an also-ran.
Yeah, I mean, just simple stuff, you know. Advise a lot of amateurs and whatnot, even pros. Sometimes I'll tell them, you know, if you feel like you're struggling, you know, make a stroke that feels good. You know, I mean, that's kind of what we're trying to get at, and that'll remind you. That's kind of, you know, where you play your best pool.
You talk about work. He puts in a huge amount of it off the table, and has been working very hard on his physical fitness for the last few years.
And a little off with the swing to start. But also, you know, it's kind of like your mentality. I was never the perfect kind of mentality. I just don't think it's a right way to play sports, to be try and be perfect. And pool is one of those games or sports that you can kind of label that a little bit. Oh, I should get the cue ball here. And of course, you're trying to do those things and get in great position, but you got to realize you're shooting for perfect without it being really attainable.
Well, that's the book that was written by, was it Bob Rotella, the sports psychologist? Golf is not a game of perfect. Certainly applies in this game as well.
Yeah, both a game of misses at times. But really, I mean, you know, all these players have won tournaments, and some bigger than others, but still a matter of your adrenaline getting going, and, you know, got to reflect on those things, even if they're smaller events, and how you felt when you were making that run.
Well, like I said, he got to the last 32, Dominguez, of 2 of these Matchroom Open events last year. He also made single elimination at the World Championship. Didn't go any further, though. He was beaten by the eventual winner of that championship, Francisco Sanchez Ruiz. He was picking up world ranking points at regular intervals throughout the year. In fact, he finished in 9th place in varying formats at some of the smaller ranking events in the US 4 times last year.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. He did play some around the US, then picked it up in the fall, had 2 nice results there in Hanoi. Hanoi, he was playing really well. And then of course, that US Open, he played well also. I think Oscar, to me, has always been one of the Americans that travels abroad and plays well. I've always suffered a little bit abroad. I know Shane has not had his best results overall. It's difficult. Touchy little shot here. He's going to try and hang the 6 over the pocket. Now he should be able to cheat the pocket to come 3 rails around. I think, anyways, should be able to avoid the 9 and the 7, no problem. Now, the key here is, again, you don't want to overhit it and be way up table, but if you underhit it, the 7 doesn't pass the 9 in the lower right, so you got to get around the brown.
positive early signs from Dominguez, Jay.
No, absolutely. And again, I didn't get to watch, but a couple racks of a match early for him. But he really hasn't had a lot of close score lines overall. Really dismantled his opponents.
Yeah, hasn't had any close matches, really. And it isn't close in the early stages here. Max Lechner really hasn't got started yet. Oscar Dominguez looks very quickly into his stride. And that's why he leads by 2-0. Alban Ocean's defence of the European Open title was ended by Daniel Massiol in Germany last August. But it's a reversal today. Ocean has beaten the Polish player by 10-5 and goes through to play Gary Wilson in the last 32 later today. Lu Riteng is still looking for one more. Duong Kwok Hwang is hanging on in their match at 9-7 down. And Copenhagen has just won as well. Former World Masters winner, beating Jose Alberto Delgado 10-6. Will now play the young Estonian, Karl Nadeberg. James Oranis 6-2 up on Nicholas Dorr. Naoki always won the first 3 racks against Mieszko Fortunski. Oliver Szolnocki has taken the opener off Jan van Lierop. 3-all between Marvin Assis and Bernie Regalario. Carlo Beato racing away against Simon Kural. 5-1 there. Anton Raga 6-3 up on Nikos Economopoulos. And Georgi Georgiev has won the 4th rack, having lost all of the first 3 to Mickey Kraus. Back to this one, what's happened here?
Well, a little better hit, but I'll tell you, our referees have been awesome, but that rack didn't act very routine, let's say. Really didn't spread at all, the balls. They kind of came out of the rack a little bit. I guess a lot of kisses in that upper left corner if we're looking at the screen now, but okay, a little bit of a tester after 2 misses in the first 2 games for Max Lechner here on the 1 ball. And you could tell that was totally mental in my mind. He didn't wait over the ball. He didn't stand up off the ball very long. Much different than his first 2 misses. Probably a little heady, saying to himself, hey, let's pull the trigger a little bit here, and now another miss. We've seen it all week that, these leads have held up for the most part, and there's some reasons why. Of course, the great players, and of course you get ahead of steam, but the table's set up to where the leads really mean something. So if Oscar was to win this game, difficult play here on the 2 to get to the 3, though. He's got to gamble a little bit. Got more out of it than I thought he would at that stroke. I thought he needed a bit more. Now, I know it sounds crazy, but myself included and some other players, shots like these, I've seen them take the bank cross side versus the cut down the rail. Don't think you can get involved with any kind of 2-way here. Yeah, tried to play the cue ball 2 rails behind the brown just in case of the miss. I think maybe enhanced the miss, but he liked it.
Last tournament we saw Max Lechner was the World Masters in Germany just a couple of weeks ago, and he threatened to pull off one of the most remarkable turnarounds we've ever seen, because he was 8-1 down to Alban Ocean in the first round, raced to 9, got it back to 8-6, had a chance in the next, but missed a 3 that he really needed to get and should have got, really. And Ocean saw it out from there. And if he keeps playing like this, JJ, he's going to face a similar massive deficit again.
Yeah, and a huge roll here after a very bad miss. The 2 ball in game 2 wasn't too good, but this here, I can't really explain it. That missed by 2 inches up the side rail.
Said Dominguez hasn't had close finishes. He didn't lose a single rack in his first match against Tommy Donlan, European Mosconi Cup player from long ago. Jeffrey Roda was dismissed by 9 racks to 2. That's an impressive result. And then 9-5 against Mieszko Fortunski in winner's qualification.
Yeah, I don't understand that one exactly. And of course, that's given Max Lechner all the credit in the world. But when you see a player struggle early like that, you know, Oscar kicks at the ball really well. So he could have easily gone a couple cushions off the right side back at a big 3-ball. And really, we always talk about ball in hand is the one that can kind of get you going and make you forget about a few mistakes. And I think making the hit on the 3, even though maybe serving up a shot, was much more important than trying to get maybe a little cute here with this kick. And that's the difference in pool. We don't have that coach or caddy out there to remind you a little bit about what's going on with the setting at the moment. Probably would like to come up the side rail, considering a few misses, get somewhat close to the green 6. It's going to get a little in between. 7 doesn't pass the 9. Certainly move the cue ball out for the 7 in the lower left.
This the first major world ranking event of the year, but there have been 8 smaller events with world ranking points on the line already. And Lechner's been in a quarter-final of the tournament in Italy last month, won by his good friend Albin Ocean. He's already looking exasperated in this match.
Yeah, and all 4 of the misses have been a little different as well. So I'm just looking at like the sequence before he pulls the trigger. Some he's been down on the ball a bit longer, like that one in the last. A little less on that 6-ball. Maybe sometimes when you miss, you like think, oh, let me just swing and get it over with. It's going to be all right. And what a huge ball this sounds, or rack this seems like here early.
Yeah, even though it's only rack 3, I know exactly what you mean. And of course, when your opponent is clearly struggling at the start of a match, you want to keep him on 0 for as long as you possibly can. Don't give him a chance to settle. Dominguez looks to be playing well enough that he's in a position to inflict that sort of damage that he can move into a very substantial early lead. But it's a big shot.
He's going to need a little more out of the cue ball. This is going to land very bad. He's going to have to show us a bit of creativity and touch. Maybe clipping the 7, going to the side rail, coming behind the 9. What a shot.
Well, you asked for some creativity. I think he delivered.
Yeah, Michael, I mean, we're into this final 64 now. My extreme kind of dark horse fell by the wayside of Paselge. But as far as overall, the final, you know, we're in the final 64. We've seen 3 days. Anyone you like so far?
Are we talking picks for the title here?
Yeah, I mean, you can give me a couple names. It doesn't have to be one. Of course, Filler looks great, but, you know, someone that you think is peaking.
Well, I'm glad you brought this up, Jeremy, because I don't think I made enough of it in Germany that I was the only one who did pick the winner. I went for Gorst at the start.
Well, that's history. Oh, nice play here. Definitely by design. So even a little shot like that, of course, winning the game more important. A little shot like that can settle you.
Some of what I've seen of Beato, I thought was very, very good. And of course, he knows how to win the biggest titles. So I think I'll make him my pick. And bearing in mind I've banned you from ever picking Van Bonen again. Who's your selection?
Well, from what I've seen of late, Coping, he seems really in form. I mean, seems like a deep run in every event. Played a little bit of a so-so match, but Josh played really well in that Whirlpool Masters, but made it deep again in the Scottish Open with a heck of a field. And the score lines he's produced so far seems like he's really intact. So besides SVB, I'm going to go with Coping. Oh, he's playing this to the other side here. Not sure exactly. Yeah. Sometimes players like cutting the ball to one side versus the other. That one was a little on the fence, but I thought the upper left maybe was a little better.
And you said about 5 minutes ago it felt like a big rack. It feels even more so now with the way it's unfolded. But this is a definite chance for Dominguez to win it.
Yeah, huge day here in Telford at this arena. Got the juniors, of course, the final 64. Some amateurs events across the hallway as well.
Yeah, that's the amateur UK Open. Yeah, it's been a well-established Q Sports venue for some time. We were here for the Players' Championship Snooker back in February. It staged the UK Championship, one of the most historic events in snooker for a number of years. But it's all about the UK Open pool, and at the moment, this match is all about Oscar Dominguez. Max Lechner really has not got started at all yet, so the American leads by 3 racks to 0. Lu Riteng is the latest player through to the last 32. Duong Kwok Hwang will not follow up his Scottish Open success with UK Open triumph because Lu Riteng has won 10-7. And that means we now have 6 confirmed last 32 matches. I'll just run you through those. Francisco Sanchez-Ruiz against Petri Makinen. Jeffrey Ignacio versus Skylar Woodward. Hona Suto plays Lu Riteng. Alban Ocean will face Gary Wilson. Tobias Bongers, who knocked out Jason Shaw, faces Jeffrey Roda. And Carl Nadeberg will play your pick for the title, Jeremy Ko-Pin Yi. James Moranis, World Cup winner, is 1 rack away from ending the adventure that Nicholas Dorr has been on here this week. Moranis leading 9-2. Naoki Oi 4-0 up on Mieszko Fortunski. Marvin Assis and Bernie Regalario level at 4-all. Carlo Biado, who we were just talking about, has a 6-3 lead against Simon Kural. And Anton Raga's going very well, 8-3 up on Nikos Economopoulos. 2-0 for Joshua Filler over American Paul Song. And Stephen Ellis, well, you talk about having a big task. The British player faces the newly crowned World Masters champion Fedor Gorst, but Ellis has won the opening rack. Reminder about Mosconi Cup tickets. A handful of them that there are left after they went on sale earlier in the week. So Florida, Orlando to be specific, will be the venue for the first time as Europe bid for 5 in a row now under the captaincy of Jason Shaw against Skylar Woodward's Americans. It all starts on the last day of November. If you want to be there, get on to matchroompool.com to grab those last few tickets. I know it was 11-3, Jeremy. You're the last person who needs to be told that. But Scott Frost, your compatriot who was on our commentary team that week, he felt that there was a lot to be optimistic about from the American point of view in terms of moving forward into the next few years. Did you see that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that 11-3 scoreline, of course, Europe, I thought, had 3 definite MVPs the way they played. Of course, you know, all of us, when we get out in front, we can play our best pool or any sport, but yeah, I think Federer's going to settle in much better. I think Skylar's going to get better. I think him being captain now and a playing captain, I think, is a good thing. And then we got a lot of guys, just like you opened today, 7 Americans passing on through. So there's a lot of bright things going on. And I think you look at that 11-3 scoreline, it had to be the pressure put on us early. And then the Euros, you know, playing exceptional pool.
Well, that was the feeling looking on from the sidelines once it got to about 3-0 or thereabouts, let's say, that the Americans were looking like they were under a lot of pressure to get that first point on the board. Do you think if it hadn't taken until, I think it was the 7th match maybe, for the Americans to get the point, and maybe they'd managed to open their account as early as about match 3, 4, something like that, it could have been entirely different?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's how sports is, right? That's how it snowballs anyways, is the other way is a few things have to happen. And you know, as an underdog, you always want a good start.
Oscar Dominguez has certainly made a good start here. Hasn't broken well, though. Let's see if he can change that.
Yeah, it's just been a variety of breaks, really not getting great spreads either. That would be the more concern to me. It's just not getting the timing on the rack. And this hasn't been the case. You can't have those scores he had in his first 3 matches without breaking the balls well. This will make Max as sick as anything. He's had a lot of chances. Does he have a natural here to cut the 1 in and go 1 rail into the red 3 to hold for the blue 2? Looks like it with a little spin maybe. I feel like he's rearing up to go 2 cushions maybe. Okay, he did play spin. Didn't get the flick he wanted. And now has lost the cue ball, so good thing it's early because everything has happened so far to Mad Max.
Do you feel a sense of embarrassment comes into it when it's as much of a struggle as it's been for a player of Lechner's quality in these early racks?
Oh, gotta pay attention to those ball in hands. No, I don't think so. I mean, we've all been there, that's for sure. I mean, been there in bigger moments than the final 64 even, I would bet. And so he's, problem is when you can't really grasp what's going on and why. That's the real issue, but I don't think embarrassment. I mean, it's sports, you got to get past that.
Yeah, certainly no reason for embarrassment. We all know how hard the game is.
Yeah, I always thought it was a big difference between men and women in sports, where I think sports where it doesn't require strength necessarily, but I think that's a big part where men kind of take the embarrassment side a little easier, to say it in the nicest way. I don't know how to exactly explain what I'm trying to say, but something along those lines. Kill shot here on the pink.
He's been a 3-time Mosconi Cup player himself, all quite spread out. Made his debut as long ago as 2009. Took 8 years to get back into the team, and then another 5 to make his 3rd and most recent appearance as part of your team, Jeremy, about 16, 17 months ago.
Well, I'm surprised he had to come up this high with the cue ball. Didn't realize, of course, the camera will fool you. These shots he usually excels at, just flat cut straight up and down with the cue ball.
He is a Mosconi Cup winner. He was part of the winning team on that debut back in 2009. Never played in a Mosconi over here, though. All 3 of his appearances were in Las Vegas.
Yeah, and a bit surprising, you know, not only 3 Mosconis for Oscar, but I think at times it was really just about that full commitment to an entire season. Okay, I would want to shave this 7 and bump the 8 a little bit and just kind of rock the cue ball down where he's at, pointing the cue. Now looking at the cut, I don't like the cut shot at all. Yeah, this has got to be the play. Oh, he let that go out some piece.
Here's one for you, Jeremy. In the final 64, how many countries are represented?
Oh, that's a guess. Let's see. A few Germans in it, Austrians. Say 15.
It's 27.
Wow.
27 different countries in a field of 64.
Wow. I would have never dreamed that, especially knowing there's some countries that carried quite a few in there.
Well, you got 7 each from Philippines and your own country. Chinese Taipei has 5, as does the host nation. You could argue it's 28 if you want to split it into England and Scotland. 4 each from Poland, who always are strongly represented, and Germany, as you say. Spain and Austria have both got 3. Then you've got 2 apiece from Albania, Vietnam, Estonia, Japan, the Netherlands, Hong Kong, Singapore, and 12 other countries with 1 each.
Yeah, truly amazing. Not sure what he's doing here. But again, this is where I would evaluate what my opponent has shown me so far. The 8's on the side rail. He can come off the left, try and get the 7 out in space, maybe up by the head string, come 3 rails and plant him on the end rail and tell Max to come with a shot. It's simple. This is going to be pretty good. It's going to leave him a little more of a natural angle, but still a tester for sure. At what seems like maybe a lot of things are a tester for Max at the moment. This is a tough shot, not only to pocket the ball, but he's got to get into the cue ball to draw shape on the black 8. No, he's not even going to shoot at it. Going to get cue ball near the 9. Maybe a bit of this here. Now, this is a little better angle maybe to come off the left side. He's hitting left English, so it should be the top side of the brown as we're looking now. No, he's going the other way. This has got a chance to leave him much better cueing, though, and more of an angle. I think I avoid trying to get the snooker there. Of course, I understand it, but now Max a little closer to the 7. The 7 a bit more friendly to get on the 8.
Here's the scoreline. It's going to raise a few eyebrows on table 3. Federgorst 0, Stephen Ellis 3.
Oh, we'll talk about that in a moment. Big shot for Max. Feel like he'll make it. Maybe a little fortunate the 7 came out, cue ball near the rail. Well, you think about the way the tables are playing. And, you know, I think this has something to do with some of the scores we see, and maybe close scores or even defeats by some big favorites. Is if you lose focus on these tables at all, I mean, you can run 4 or 5 balls and miss easily if you get a little out of line or flinch a little bit, and now your opponent's cleaning up racks with, you know, 4 or 5 shots maybe, not much pressure. Yeah, I'm not sure really. Doesn't really want to go at this one, I don't think. With the cue ball near the rail, has to go forward to try and get some shape with a ton of power. He's looking, can I bank this cross side, or excuse me, towards the upper right corner and double it back to the top rail as the cue ball comes back down table. he's looking at position on the 9 just because the safety looks very difficult. Cue ball is going to get near the cushion also. It's near the pocket, but the way Max has started, definitely no gimme.
Actually, just thinking, Jeremy, I was saying we could argue there are 28 countries represented if you include Jason Shaw as separate because he's from Scotland. Stephen Ellis, I've seen listed as Wales, so you could argue it's 29.
Well, what do? Do you come all the way around? Do you lay up for the cut shot on the 9? First things first. Got to make the 8. He's going to be happy with that one. Still a tester on the 9 from the rail.
No matter how badly you're struggling, sometimes all it takes is one really good shot to turn it round, and perhaps the pot on the 8 and getting position on the 9 will be that moment for Max Lechner. He was in real need of it after losing all of the first 3 racks, but he's taken that one. It's now 3-1 to Dominguez. James Aranis is into the last 32. He's beaten Niklas Dorr of Germany, who's made a real name for himself here this week, by 10 racks to 2. He'll now play either Naoki Oi or Mieszko Fortunski. Oi was fast out of the blocks there, but Fortunski is back to only 1 behind at 4-3. It's 1-1 between former world semi-finalist Oliver Szolnocki and Jan van Lierop. Same score between Ko Ping Chung and Jack Whelan. Marvin Assis and Bernie Regalario are 5-all in the all-Philippines clash. Another Philippines player, Carlo Beato, is on the hill now at 9-3 against Simon Kural of Poland. And Victor Zielinski leads 3-0 over Alvin Anggito of Indonesia. And another winner for you, Anton Raga, 10-3 against Nikos Economopoulos. He'll now play either Joshua Filler or Paul Song. And Song is level with Filler in that one at 3-all. And what a way to follow up getting your first rack on the board. You go out in the very next rack and get a golden break. And how quickly this has turned around, JJ. All of a sudden, there's only one in it.
Yeah, I was looking for a little bit of a smile from Max. Not a whole lot there. Still trying to figure things out, but that'll help. And I was going to comment that the one good thing we've seen so far in comparison with the 2 players, Max is breaking the balls better. Has had a shot on his break and now a golden break.
Makes a habit of them, doesn't he? I know he had one yesterday on the main table, and he had 4 in one match in the World Masters last year. There was one other score, didn't quite have time to give you there. Mickey Kraus of Denmark is leading 6-2 against Georgi Georgiev, the Bulgarian who beat Albin Ocean yesterday. And that match that I mentioned there, Joshua Filler and Paul Song, 3-all. Tell us about the American Paul Song, Jeremy.
Yeah, Paul, player, lives in Atlanta, Georgia, or that area. Solid player. I actually kind of met him in a defeat against him 2 years ago, I believe, in a tournament in Florida. He played real solid. You can tell, though, when you watch him, he knows what he's doing. A player that took some time off after some health issues, I believe, some 15 years ago or so. Got back into the game and kind of lost his passion, he said, for it, and got back into the game a couple years ago, and a solid player.
And the way he's going this week, Song is clearly in tune.
Yeah, I believe maybe, it's hard to say, but I think maybe Korean descent, maybe even part Filipino. Paul, super nice guy, very humble, mild-mannered. Nice opener there from Oscar, coming off the rail with a little spin.
Yeah, in terms of breaks, Lechner has gone from golden in rack 5 to dry in number 6. And a chance here for Dominguez to reassert himself. I mentioned he's been in 2 World 9-Ball Tour ranking event finals recently. Scottish Open last week, which he was only 2 racks away from winning, incidentally, before losing to Duan Kwang. And as you'd expect in such a stacked field, he had a tough route through to the final. Mentioned that he beat Joshua Filler in the last 16. Followed that by seeing off Torsten Homan, 2-time world champion in the quarters. And then Jason Shaw, playing on home ground in the semis. But he was also 2 racks away from winning the previous ranking event in Mexico. Hona Suto defeated him there.
Yeah, Oscar playing a pretty full schedule. And it's serving him well.
I guess if he's traveling to Colombia, Mexico, Scotland, as he has been recently to play in those smaller events, surely we're going to see him come to all of the very big events around the world in 24.
Yeah, I mean, as a pool player and a great pool player, that's where you want to be. And just so many fans have told me about wanting to go to Vietnam after what they saw on the telly last year, and I think it's just going to be bigger and better. Of course, right after that, the Reyes Cup in Manila, where it should be to start.
Well, anyone who does want to travel to Hanoi better get in quick, get their hotel rooms, their flights, their tickets, because now that word is out after the huge success of last October, the demand is going to be even higher this year.
Yeah, absolutely. A little bump on the 6 made that difficult. Heavy angle here on the 5 from a little distance. It was amazing, the pool rooms also there in Hanoi. The venue was awesome. Hotel was incredible.
It was like there were 2 events going on, because you had the Hanoi Open going on by day, and then even when play was finished, so many of the players were heading off to those pool rooms you talk about and playing matches and meeting the locals. It was a real eye-opener in terms of what a big pool event really can be.
Yeah, well, I mean, it has to be one of the biggest sporting events to come to Hanoi, maybe ever. Tough shot here. Has to keep it hugging the rail as he comes across with the cue ball. Wants a little bounce. He did get it, so he can get to the bottom of the cue ball. Important to get to the 8. Looks like a little stun draw. Doesn't need a ton here. Yeah, I was looking at that draw of Billy Thorpe, who is playing, I think, his best pool. Ignacio did get him, but I think him and Skyler would have drawn each other in round of 32 if he had won, I believe. Now Skyler plays Ignacio.
Yeah, that's correct. Thorpe was in front of the cameras yesterday against Imran Majid and played really well.
Well, I mean, even in his loss, he played really well early. Against, who was it, Yoshioka? Made that 8-2 comeback from down 8-2.
That's right, 1-9-8.
Could come 2 rails or 1.
So it was the dry break that presented the opportunity. But he's been pretty impressive in the manner in which he's taken it here.
Yeah, really a little unfortunate there in rack number 4 when he cut the 7. He went by, didn't graze the 8. Was left with a difficult shot. Max made a nice return and then a golden break.
Real quality there from Oscar Dominguez in rack 6. It's a rack he's won, and he's 2 clear once again at 4 racks to 2. We talked about the fact there are 27 flags appearing in the draw for the last 64. One of those you wouldn't normally expect to see is Indonesia. Alvin Anggito has made a name for himself here this week, but it's a bit of a struggle today. 5-0 down now against Poland's Viktor Zielinski. Naoki Oi and Mieszko Fortunski are now level at 4-all. The Pole really battling back well there. Oliver Szolnocki has gone 3-1 up on Jan van Lierop. Ko Ping Chung, the US Open champion, has gone 4-1 up on Jack Whelan. Fedor Gorst has Rather belatedly won his first rack. He's 3-1 behind against Britain's Stephen Ellis. Bernie Regalario has edged ahead of Marvin Assis at 6-5. João Griot's won the first couple of racks against Anthony Braben. Paul Song is now leading Joshua Filler 4-3. Mickey Kraus needs 3 more, 7-3 up on Georgi Georgiev. Carlo Beato still on the hill, 9-4 ahead of Poland's Simon Corral. Back here, it's 4-2 to the American, Oscar Dominguez.
Oh, that's got to be a happy moment to see the one go down. It's been a little rough. By far his best break off. And now a very good shot at the blue two. We'll say it all week. Nothing's a hanger out here. The way these tables are playing, but you got to like his chances.
We were talking earlier about Bailey Wilson, the 6-year-old son of the newly crowned world snooker champion, Kyron Wilson. Bailey playing in the Jason Shaw Jr. event here starting today. And Oscar, of course, comes from good Q Sports background himself. His father, Ernesto, was a very good player.
Yeah, absolutely. A mainstay on the pro tour back when I started. Of course, on up into probably his mid-50s or so, maybe even close to 60. He played competitively, still plays some events. One of the best table mechanics in the world. Very sought-after guy that travels the country.
Well, he represented Mexico, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Him and Ismael Paez both from Southern California, but originally Mexico, and got many world championships invites and different things because of that. Great guy, though, just like Oscar. Super great human. Big shot here. Yeah, squeezed it home. Not going to get what he wants. Maybe something thin in the side, but something about maybe the soft hands Oscar has. We've seen just a couple shots in this match that we haven't seen balls fall on this table when hit like that, and he's just kind of wiggling them home, a couple of them. All right, he's going to add a lot of right spin here, coming off the bottom rail, trying to get to the side rail to slow the cue ball down as he comes up for the pink. Shot, another one he excels at. Anything light with a little spin.
So what you're saying, Jeremy, is because he puts less force into the ball, it makes it more likely that it'll drop, or is it something a bit different to that?
Well, it's kind of like what I always say is, like, he doesn't try to impact the ball a whole lot, and it's an odd thing. He really more of a stroker of the ball, goes through the ball, and I think quite conversely to his opponent, I think makes for a hair bigger pocket just with the technique.
I always feel in any sport where you're playing with a stationary ball, any cue sport, golf, when you watch the very best players up close in real life, as it were, you're often amazed by how little force they use and how gently they do absolutely everything.
Yeah, it's a bit of a fooler, though, Michael. That's why all of them are pretty similar in techniques. When you do it right, you kind of accelerate to power. So as a spectator, we see just the 2 starting points of the swing, and those are both pretty soft, you might say, or mild. But then as the downswing's being made, they accumulate a lot of speed on the cue. Same thing in the golf, where you have, you know, the burst of energy right there at impact. I think the ones we talk about that have the better techniques overall, I think that's what you see. Copine, Co-Brothers, Albin Ocean, many players.
So it's just about that last bit, the moment of delivery and impact. That's where the power comes from. Everything up to then needs to be gentle.
Yeah, you just kind of accumulate on the way down with the swing, and that's why they always, if you ever watch a pro golfer, when they stand behind the ball, now Bryson's a little different, but every one of them, they never practice the speed in the swing. They always just practice the nice soft transition, because they know if they get through the transition, speed will always be there. It's a natural thing, really, for humans to accumulate that speed on the way down. That's why when we comment he got a little quick, it's mainly the starting points is what we're talking about, which makes you kind of let up on the ball a bit. Big shot here again. Keep the hammer on. just like right there. A little softer speed, a little lighter going in. Now Oscar, and of course his dad was very well-known table mechanic, and he grew up on very snug pockets.
Well, it's a grounding that will certainly serve him well this week when there's been so much talk about the tough examination the players have been put through because of the pockets. And Max Lechner is facing a bit of a psychological examination here because it really isn't going his way. He's had the golden break. He had the great shot on the 8 in the rack before that. But other than that, everything has been going the way of Oscar Dominguez, who has restored that earlier 3-rack lead. Dominguez 5-2 in front. Mieszko Fortunski continues to really turn things around against Naoki Oi, so much so that the pole is now in front at 5-4. Oliver Szolnocki 3-1 up on Jan van Lierop. Ko Ping Chung has a 4-1 lead against Jack Whelan. And also leading 4-1, Stephen Ellis against Fedor Gorst. The World Masters champion did open his account in the 4th rack, but Ellis has gone 3 clear again. Bernie Regalario has won rack 12 to go 7-5 in the All-Philippines clash with Marvin Assis. Zhao Grio 2-1 up on Anthony Braben. Victor Zielinski, I told you about, 5-0 lead against Alvin Angito. Carlo Biado 9-5 against Simon Corral. Paul Song, I was telling you, ahead of Joshua Filler at 4-3. And Mickey Kraus 3 away from a place in the last 32. He leads Georgi Georgiev 7-3. Whoever wins that will play the winner of this, and at the moment it looks like being the man at the table there.
Yeah, Oscar picking up the break as well. Probably a safety coming on the blue too. With a difficult pot and position, even more difficult. So I think Max will get back to the table in rack number 8, but maybe something he's not going to like very much. Doesn't want to pocket this ball or near the pocket. It's pretty good.
Lechner has got such a consistent record of doing well in the very biggest events. In the post-COVID era, quarterfinals of the 2 biggest of all, the World Championship and the US Open, in the same year in 2021. Was in the World quarterfinals again the following year, and as I was saying, went all the way to the final of the US Open. And last year, quarterfinals once again at the US Open after beating Dominguez on the way, and was 1 match away from another quarterfinal in the World Championship, beaten by Wu Kunlin. Last 16 in Hanoi, and was in single elimination of all 6 of the Matchroom Big Field events during 2023. So very, very consistent. The biggest year of his career in terms of prize money won. But that all might seem like a distant memory at the moment, because while I've been talking, Oscar Dominguez has got in with a chance to go 4 clear for the first time in the match.
And you got to like the composure, of course. Not getting much heat put on him at the moment, but still, though, that's almost the beauty of it as well with the tighter pockets. Is even if you have a player that's, you know, kind of floundering a bit, right? You still have to earn it. Even if you're given shots and given a lot of opportunities, it's not going to be a bunch of throw-ins. Interested to see how Mario He responds to this final 64 after making that incredible comeback yesterday just to qualify.
Yeah, Mario He up against the defending champion Eklund Kachi, and that will be the next match on this table.
See all the side spin there, trying to open up the angle. tell you one thing that's helped Oscar, I think, as well. And, you know, at these tournaments, he's been hanging out with Federer quite often, rooming together with Federer at times, and you know, probably exchanging some words on things and some training ideas, probably the break shot at times as well. And just getting to have that compadre that's that upper level, I think, rubs off.
Well, they're having very different days so far today, because Federer Gorst is now 5-1 down to the British player Stephen Ellis. Oscar Dominguez, on the other hand, has won 3 racks in a row for the 2nd time in the match. This is the biggest lead he's had. He only needs 3 more to make it into the last 32. Mieszko Fortunski continues his revival against Naoki Oi. He's now got a bit of daylight between them. Fortunski leading 6-4. Bernie Regalario now 8-5 up against Marvin Assis, so pulling away in what had been a very close match. Victor Zielinski's added another one, so 6-0 now. He leads Alvin Anggito of Indonesia. And Anthony Braben has got it back to 2-all with Zhao Grio. Joshua Filler has levelled as well in his match against Paul Song. That's 4-all. Mickey Kraus still looking for a couple more racks. The Danish player with an 8-3 lead over Bulgaria's Georgi Georgiev. And Pius Labutas of Lithuania, who, like Dominguez, has been in 2 world ranking event finals already this year, has taken the first rack against last year's World Championship semi-finalist Wu Kunlin. That's what's going on elsewhere. Back to the main table, Dominguez very much in command.
Well, a little thicker hit on the one there as well. You saw the cue ball not get kissed and get up table. That's usually a no-no on the breaking end. He's played it pretty safe when he's been on the fence on certain shots. So an interesting look here at the blue 2 that does play with the 3 open. What's he decide? I think he's supposed to shoot here, but he's going to draw the ball some 3 rails here. Shot he likes a lot. He needs a bump here on the 6 to stay out of trouble. He's okay. But we talked about it yesterday. I think I was brought up my own match to really discuss it. But when the tables do get difficult, you know, you can change your way of thinking at times when it comes to a shot when you're on the fence, and especially when you're having an opponent that's struggling. You may lean towards the safe side of things at times.
Well, you've had a couple of events now the last 2 weeks because you played the Scottish Open as well. Having done all that, do you fancy playing a few more tournaments coming up soon?
Yeah, I actually do want to play another one, but I want to be a little more prepared. I think, you know, we talked about it at the Mosconi Cup press conference, I think it was, and now Barry is playing in the U.S. Open. So I'd like to play the U.S. Open if possible. We'll see what the work looks like, and of course, you know, the qualification for it and whatnot. But
surely there's got to be an exemption for former champions.
I think there's a chance of that, yeah. Okay, what's he going to do here? Sometimes the most simple is what gets it done. He could just play the pink up to the top rail, let the cue ball float to the right side cushion, just really utilizing the green 6 as a safe. Sometimes we try to get involved with too much. And again, when your opponent's struggling, simple is okay. I really like this play here. He's going to leave a very doable kick, but again, the balls are pretty open, hard to get a definite snooker.
I know this might be a difficult question to answer, but I'd be very interested to hear what you have to say about it. You're talking about maybe playing the US Open, but you'd want to be properly prepared. So it may be hard to put a number on this, but how many hours of practice would you want to be doing to feel you could go in there and be competitive in the run-up to it?
Well, as much as possible, but I'd like at least you know, somewhat of 2 weeks maybe of being able to constantly hit balls. And the one thing I always talk about also with lessons when I coach is being able to sleep on things is huge in my mind. And being, you know, look at the first 5 or 6 hour session on day one and be maybe a little easier on myself for how I hit the ball, and then sleep on it and then come back in the next day and understand that it's going to be a progression. But I think a week or two I could get to where if I played a good match or two, I could be maybe pretty tough to beat. I know it's hard to believe after what I did this week, but you know, that practice is important. You know, something like 5 hours a day or something like that.
Problem is, you've got too big a reputation. People are dragging you here, there, and everywhere for coaching and all kinds of other things.
Yeah, but I said if Barry played that U.S. Open, I'd sure like to play it there with him. So nice shot, nice kick shot there from Max. He can see a lot of this ball. I think he can see it all. I just have to bank this back up the table 2 rails, I think. Looks like he's going to go on the softer side, trying to go behind the 9. This could leave a short shot. Boy, his speed has been perfect, though. How good is that?
Talked about how straightforward, really, it's been for Oscar Dominguez to get this far. Quite the opposite for Max Lechner. He did get a bye in the first round, but then lost to Anthony Braben of Cyprus in his second match, so that left him needing to win 3 matches on the loser's side. And he only got through 8-6 against Manos Spiridakis. Then he beat Darren Appleton 8-4 and was 1 rack away from going out of the championship altogether in losers qualification yesterday before getting past Dimitris Loukatos.
Yeah, Max is pretty disgusted at the moment, and some things aren't going his way, but he knows that he opened that door for, you know, the pool gods to kind of shine on Oscar a bit, maybe frown on Max a bit. But you know, these matches can turn, so you got to stay focused as much as possible.
I'm not going to use the name I usually use for this implement in case you start asking me awkward questions about mooses again, Jeremy. We had that the other day.
Oh, nice, checking that with a bit of inside. He's going to get near the 6, so the purple still a little demanding.
Nobody would be surprised to see Carlo Biado lifting the trophy here on Sunday night, and he's a step closer to doing that. He's just finished it off against Szymon Kural of Poland by 10 racks to 6. And it looks as though he'll face another Polish opponent in the next round, because Victor Zielinski is 6-0 up on Alvin Anggito of Indonesia.
And Zielinski, the poll talked about the most, I think has kind of quietly gone about his business here this week, and really hasn't been threatened in many matches either. And it seems to me Oscar getting a bit stronger as this match goes as well.
And overall, I guess you'd have to describe this as a very accomplished performance.
Yeah, and I think just a bit of what he's been doing all week, really. And just kind of, you know, get the feeling he's just out there kind of playing the game by himself, which is always the best setting for the top players, or any players really. Saw a few players make some, you know, kind of vocal complaints about the pockets, and some top players as well. And I don't know, I see other players dealing with it pretty well, and some that aren't as big of names really. I think it's something that doesn't set up for certain players' techniques, and that's really what bothers them, whether they know it or not. So maybe have to make some adjustments.
Well, that last shot was perhaps the last slight bit of hope for Lechner in rack 9. This is a straightforward 9-ball for Dominguez. And he's just streaking away now. That's 4 racks in a row. He's 5 clear. And he needs 3 more. Mieszko Fortunski is still ahead of Naoki Oi, but the Japanese player has got it back to 6-5. Oliver Szolnocki steadily building a good lead over Jan van Lierop. It's now 4-1. Jack Whelan is battling away well against the US Open champion Ko Ping Chung. The British player just one behind at 4-3. Another British player having a good day, Stephen Ellis, a much better day in fact, although Federer Gorst has won rack 7. He's back to 5-2 down against Ellis. Bernie Regalario now 8-7 up against Marvin Assis, who's charging back there. Anthony Braben 4-2 ahead of Zhao Griot. Paul Song still has the edge over Joshua Filler at 5-4. And Pius Labutis of Lithuania, who was one rack away from reaching the final of one of these big Matchroom Open events last year, has a 2-1 advantage against Wu Kun Lin.
He's getting better with the break shot as well. He's going to get a nice 2-ball. Everything pretty open. The 3-4-5 near on the right side. The 6 up the table, so some work for sure, but you don't want to bet against the clearance here, Michael.
He's clearly playing really well. So if he found himself getting through another few rounds and was in, say, a quarter-final or a semi-final, well, then it becomes the challenge to see how you deal with that. Can you get the job done? Can you believe in yourself enough to go on and win the title? How do you think he'll respond to that situation if he gets that far?
Well, I think he'll respond very well, and I think that's why those smaller, you know, ranking events really mean something. Just those matches against top players, it's like I said a few minutes ago, really when you find yourself winning tournaments, you're out there by yourself, and well, that's what he's been doing without necessarily getting the wins, all those finals. So I think as much as anyone that's maybe, you know, a little unexpected into a semifinal or something even deeper, I think Oscar's set himself up for good results. And the way he's played here and obviously throughout the event, everyone's going to make a mistake. You know, it's 7-2 here. He's in a good position. I still would bet there's probably a miss coming from Oscar somewhere, but you don't get the feeling there's going to be a lot of them or the real unnecessary ones, and that's a good sign. And I'll tell you another thing he's doing as well as anyone is, no matter what shot he's picking out, he's committing to it very well.
Mickey Kraus of Denmark is a player who there's been a lot of talk about for a number of years. Hasn't yet delivered in one of these really big events, but he's into the last 32. He's ended the run of Bulgaria's Georgi Georgiev by 10 racks to 3 and will now play the winner of the match we're watching.
Yeah, a player I've always liked to talk about, and I think he's improved even more in putting in the time at those smaller events. We say smaller events, they're still not small in class fields, usually for the most part.
We haven't seen anyone being whitewashed yet today, and we're not going to see it on table 2 because Alvin Anggito, the young Indonesian player, has won the 7th rack, so now trails 6-1 to Victor Zielinski. I've noticed he does this a lot, empties the pockets. So is he in fear of that thing that we see maybe once every 10,000 shots where a ball sort of gets a bit of a roll off a ball that's in a pocket and jumps off the table?
Yeah, he may have, or jumps back on the table sometimes. That's also, uh-oh, that's got to slow down. It's going to get a lot of angle here. It's okay and very playable, but yeah, he may have had one that kind of like hopped a little bit, and you know, you got a little peek at it while it's still in the pocket, maybe fearing something, but he's playing well, so don't change anything, right? This 8's enough off the side cushion. He should be able to come past the side with low left English. I think that's what you're going to see him do. I don't think he should really settle here and just chop the 8 and stay above the side for a very difficult 9. I think you're supposed to take it on here with the 8. Plenty of angle, doesn't have to kill it. Center cut.
Well, this is really rubbing it in for Lechner, even when it goes a bit wrong, as it did for Dominguez there, overrunning his position to get on the 8. He's recovered it ideally as this simple 9 to move within a couple of victory. Oscar Dominguez leads Max Lechner 8-2. Marvin Assis is the latest player to get to the hill, 9-8 now against Bernie Regalario. Mieszko Fortunski is 6-5 up on Naoki Oi. Ko-Ping Chung has made it 5-3 now against Jack Whelan. Anthony Braben is really pulling away against Zhao Griot. That's 5-2 now. Paul Song is closing in on a massive result on table 6. The American leads Joshua Filler, winner of this title 2 years ago and runner-up last year, by 6 racks to 4. And they appear to be the only matches that have moved on since the end of the previous rack. Big story still going on table 3, but no change there. Stephen Ellis, the British player, halfway to victory over Fedor Gorst, and he's got a bit of breathing space. Ellis leading 5-2. Lots of breathing space here for Oscar Dominguez. He has got an 8-2 advantage. 2 more, gets the job done.
And this 3 may set up as well with the 6 near. Looks like he can play a kiss shot. He kind of raised his hand saying the 3's froze, but he can still make the 6 with no problems. I'll tell you, of course, he's still in the tournament, so he's got business, but yeah, I think he may talk himself out of this 6 ball. You can still certainly come off the right, even though it's a froze ball, with a little right spin and make the 6. Not going to know exactly what's going to happen with the cue ball and the 3, but don't see how you can't shoot this. Of course, he's playing pretty perfect pool, so hard to question what he decides. But what I was getting at is Skylar Woodward's still in the tournament. He's got work to do himself, but got to be paying attention to this this display that Oscar's putting on the main table here.
From a Mosconi perspective, you mean?
Absolutely. I mean, of course, the score lines he's had, no coincidence of what we're seeing here.
If he keeps playing like this, he won't need a pick from Woodward. He's going to qualify automatically.
Yeah, well, a lot of tournaments going on in that regard, but Federer and SVB in a great place there. But yeah, I mean, I think we can all say I'm really surprised he did not shoot at that kiss shot. Shocking, really.
That is the thing, isn't it? You talk about there being open competition for places on the American team and the opportunity for someone to break in there, but you've got Gorst, you've got Van Boning, and you've got Woodward himself. It's going to be very hard to finish above any of those, and Woodward will be playing either way, but of course he has his own personal incentive to want to qualify automatically, because that frees up both of his wild cards. If he doesn't make the top 3, then he's got to use one of his wild cards on himself, and that leaves him with only 1 pick.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. The biggest favor he could do is, of course, qualify himself. All right, got a nice ball down. 4-9 combo waiting. May play the cue ball into the purple as well. Trying to maybe enhance pocketing another ball just in case the combo doesn't fall.
Well, the last rack he won was the 5th. He only played 1 shot in that rack. He was attempting to win this one, having played only 2 shots. But not to be.
Yeah, And we've seen it before with some big comebacks from Max not that long ago, almost making a huge comeback in the Whirlpool Masters.
Yeah, 8-1 down. Got back to 8-6 against Alban Ocean. Raced to 9. Had a chance to get back to only 1 behind, but missed that 3 at a crucial stage, and Ocean saw it out from there.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, that U.S. Open final that FSR won, he was down and started to make a big comeback before FSR took that championship.
I think pretty much every match FSR played during those few months where he won the US Open and the World Championship had unbelievable drama of one sort or another.
Yeah, and I think overall it was right here at this UK Open where he got that run started into the final after almost exiting the tournament after 2 matches. Lost his first, was down 6-0, I believe, in his second.
Yeah, against Ashik Nathwani.
Yeah, went all the way to the final to lose to Josh Filler from there.
And the thing about that was, it was only a 16-player single elimination stage, so he had to play a colossal number of matches to get that far.
Yeah, now Max with something he does really well, usually the long ball kind of straight to get himself back going. I think he does have a look here. Oscar moved the pink a bit much. This will not be slow rolled. This is going to get up in front of the side. A little touchy going towards the 6 with the cue ball, but shouldn't be a problem.
Max Lechner works so hard on and off the table to prepare himself for these events. He tries so hard when he gets here, and everyone wants to see him do well. He's such a likable guy. And this match has really turned into the complete opposite of everything he hoped it would be. And really, it's been that way from the start. Struggled early on, was 3-0 down. Played a wonderful shot. Pot the 8 and get on the 9, get himself on the board in rack 4. Followed it up with a golden break. But really, since then, it's been all about the man at the table now.
Yeah, and you know, what Oscar's done is really magnified those early mistakes with some stellar pool. And again, if you're thinking about that American team later in the year, it's got to be a question mark, even though it's only May. Or considered, rather. Like you said, he's trying to make it off points. He did it 2 years ago, right?
I think he got in second place that year behind SVB, who was miles and miles ahead of everybody else.
Yeah, I think Skyler actually did surpass him at the very end, but when the pick was made, he was in the second position.
Yeah, second player to get in, yeah. Well, this is about as easy a 9-ball as you will ever see. And it takes him to 9. Oscar Dominguez is on the hill. He's won half a dozen racks in a row. Max Lechner looks like he can't wait to get this over with. It's 9-2. Mieszko Fortunski leading that tussle with Naoki Oi by a single rack at 7-6. Oliver Szolnocki steadily carving out a sizable advantage against Jan van Lierop. That one is 5-1 now. Ko Ping Chung is a 5-3 lead over the British player Jack Whelan. Another British player, Stephen Ellis, now 5-3 up against Fedor Gorst, after Gorst had trailed 3-0 early on. It's gone hill-hill on table 23 in the All-Philippines clash between Bernie Regalario and Marvin Assis, who was 1 rack away from knocking Shane Van Bonen out of the Hanoi Open back in October. Anthony Braben 5-4 up on Zhao Grio. Victor Zielinski just needs 2 more racks. He leads 8-1 against Alvin Angito. Paul Song has won rack 13 to lead yet again against Joshua Filler at 7-6. And Pius Labutis is 3-1 up on Wu Kun Lin. And just as I was talking there, one of those matches changed. Ko Ping Chung has got himself 3 clear now of Jack Whelan at 6 racks to 3. Dominguez needs 1 more.
Yeah, he's going to get a look at the blue 2. I think it's a little thin to play. There's a kiss shot on the 9. Wouldn't normally play, but up 9-2, rolling well, playing perfect. Wouldn't consider that really, but.
Should just mention the matches that haven't started yet. There's an all Hong Kong match between Robbie Capito and Loh Ho Sum. Eklund Kachi, the defending champion, against Mario He. Next up on this table, Masato Yoshioka against Tolian Han of Singapore. Shane Van Boning to play Wei Trong An. Tyler Steyer and Evo Arts are just into their first rack, and Aloysius Yap has just taken the first against Mustafa Alner. How has this turned out, JJ?
Yeah, he went for a thin one. Had a bit of a two-way shot here with, you can see that group of 5 balls, the 6, 7, 8, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Just like the match has been for the most part, not really too much of a mistake. It was a missable ball, but not much for Max Lechner.
You go back to the opening rack, Lechner had a good break. He had a chance to assert himself early on, and that went against him. And he had chances in the subsequent racks. Dominguez wasn't breaking well early in the match by any means, but the American kept on winning the racks.
Yeah, it was a missed 1 ball in the first rack, I believe. A missed 2 ball that was very doable, very, 90% or so. And then a missed 1 ball, if we remember, in rack number 3 after 2 consecutive dry breaks from Oscar. So kind of told us the story of this match, and Oscar Dominguez has written the rest. Heavy spin here. Oh, wow. He has misjudged that by some piece. So Oscar Dominguez, yet another ball in hand. There's been a few of those as well.
Sometimes you look at a one-sided match and you say, well, was it a case of one guy playing well or the other guy playing badly? Very often it is just one of those, but I think this is an instance where really it's been both.
Yeah, whatever it has had to happen has on the negative side for Max, unfortunately. But okay, should just pull the cue ball. It looks like 1 rail between the 8 and 9. Looks like he's looking to draw the cue ball straight. I thought he just set it up with a little angle. Like I said, spin the cue ball 1 rail. This is okay. Draw stroke kind of right at the 6 where he's standing.
So much expectation going into this year about the young Philippines player, Bernie Regalario. He's already been in a ranking tournament final in 2024, and he's now into the last 32 here because he's beaten his compatriot Marvin Assis by 10 racks to 9. He could now play Fedor Gorst, although the World Masters champion still has plenty to do. As I told you, he's 5-4 down to Britain's Stephen Ellis. Regalario, Jeremy, right up there among the most exciting young talents and prospects in the game right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to see him play a little bit last year. It wasn't his best PLP this year. Never really got comfortable. And of course, a difficult field anyways, but yeah, it's going to be fun to watch him kind of develop through the year. And of course, all the young Filipino players, it's one of them you never know. Might make enough noise to make the inaugural Reyes Cup. Oh, he's going with a high ball here. Ooh, that's a tough when you're stretched. Hard to get enough power, even though there's a lot of angle. I'd like to stun back and forth here. Oh, now that's a bridge link there, Michael. He's back at the joint of the cue here with his left hand. Boy, he hit it nicely, though.
That is just so hard to do when you look how much distance there was between his Q-tip and his bridging hand. So impressive.
Yeah, well, I think he's worked on it a little bit, but Oscar always carried kind of a long bridge anyways, so maybe that felt a little better to him than most. I would have had no chance. All right, one more shot, it looks like, on the purple 5 to come across. Should seal the deal. Oh, he's missed it thickly. Not sure what he's left. I think Max can get at the correct edge of the purple.
Would have to question how much fight there is left in Max Lechner after the way this match has gone.
Yeah, so this tells us maybe he can't get at what is the correct side of the purple. Maybe the 9 impeding. All right, queuing downward here. Man, that was a D-cell.
I would always interpret from my low level of technical knowledge, JJ, a D-cell is a real sign of a lack of confidence.
Yeah, and it's just, you know, something we all deal with. I think the most common thing for pros is not really to bang it and overhit it. That's really to let up a little bit. And, you know, nerves are one thing, but just, I think just out of sync, really. Just never got it going. Talked about Max at the beginning of this match where he can make an early mistake, but then usually starts to settle in, and that bridge has just never been crossed. May have to fan this with a lot of speed, trying to ice the 5 a bit more rather than on the light side.
Well, that's another chance for Lechner. A better one than he had just a few moments ago. More players in this situation. Does he really want to get a few more racks on the board all that much?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, can't be one of those fantastic comebacks without effort. And
Sure.
You know, we've seen it from Max before, not that long ago. It was a 3-ball, I think, that was missed there at the Whirlpool Masters, really, to make it hill-hill.
I suppose it's just more the sense of the fact that he's just played so badly in the match. But I guess you've got to fight against that, and you've got to ignore the instincts to be negative about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you may not feel the best trying to make this comeback, but that's kind of how comebacks go. I mean, you're going to be down, and then you fight through a little bit, and then start to believe a little more. Maybe a roll turns your way here and there, and never know, make your opponent feel a little pressure.
I suppose what I'm really asking is, we always say, looking on, well, at least he's bringing a bit of respectability to it, but do players think that way, or is it just a case of, well, if I don't win, I don't win?
Yeah, I don't think there's ever been that, at least in my mind, you know, make comment, something like that, but during a match, I don't think respectability is not much of it. And it's almost like when you're not happy about it, but, you know, the phrase, a win is a win, kind of thing, and you immediately want to shore it up and not say that again, get back to the practice table, and, oh, nice shot there.
Well, if he is to turn this around, it would be one of the most unlikely wins we've ever seen. But as you say, you've got to start somewhere. Having lost 6 in a row, Lechner has won this one. Oscar Dominguez still has a massive lead, though, at 9-3. Federgorst has completed his recovery against Stephen Ellis. He's drawn level now at 5-all. It's 7-all between Naoki Oi and Mieszko Fortunski. Oliver Szolnocki. It's been slow progress, but good progress, because he now has a 6-1 advantage against Jan van Lierop. Ko Ping Chung 7-3 ahead of Jack Whelan now. And there is Barry Hearn, the man who started the whole Matchroom empire 40 or so years ago, that gave rise to things like the World 9-Ball Tour. And of course he's going to be playing on it later in the year at the US Open. I understand he's practicing very hard, setting modest goals. He says he just wants to go there and win one rack. And of course, in the double elimination format, you've got 2 matches in which to try to do it. So let's see how he gets on in August. Victor Zielinski on the hill at 9-1, incidentally, against Alvin Angito. And it's 7-all between Joshua Filler and Paul Song. Dominguez still on the hill here.
Yeah, God, it's just trying to win one more rack as well. Max Lechner. Looks like he's served up a pretty nice shot. Maybe the 9's in the way, but the jump cue definitely coming if he is snookered. Yeah, I was listening, actually, a friend of mine. We were driving and caught the radio show. I think it was last week with Barry on it, with the man that hosts the show that's also going to play.
Andy Goldstein.
Yeah, that's right.
Who's presented some of these events in the past. He
Right,
presented
right.
the Mosconi, certainly.
Yeah, and so it was interesting to listen to their conversation about pool and whatnot. It was quite a long conversation, and the topic carried for maybe 20-30 minutes on the show.
I think Andy's a pretty good player, actually.
Yeah, well, he said he was going to be practicing a bit more.
I think there was something about him playing Steve Davis once and beating him. Now, don't quote me on that, even though I just quoted myself on it. Maybe it wasn't. Well, maybe it was Steve. Anyway, we'll see how he gets on.
I didn't expect that position, but and it's a little short of his mark, but it is playable to the lower right, and a shot again that I think Oscar usually excels at. A little thin, but close to it. He can hold his ball for the pink. I think he's got to go for it here.
Just talking of events coming up in the US later in the year, reminds me to tell you that Mosconi Cup tickets are on general sale at 6 o'clock today, UK time. The priority sale has already taken place, and it hasn't left much. Limited tickets still available. All starts on the last day of November in Florida.
Yeah, Michael, you have to bring your golf clubs to Florida. The weather will be most likely really nice. That means you'd have to come a day or two early, though.
I've played in Florida at that exact time. It was Thanksgiving week, which I think is the week leading up to that, isn't it? And it was just one of the most wonderful experiences.
Yeah, nice shot here from Oscar. Held the cue ball nicely for the pink and a little angle to move for the purple. He's going to want to fall somewhat straight on this 5 for the upper right corner. That way he doesn't have to deal with the 7 and maybe goes forward for the green 6 in the left middle. But the speed's got to go a little bit. This should be nice, really nice. And of course, all different kinds of styles out here on the pool table, Michael. You know plenty about it these days. Has anyone looked more in control this week in a bigger moment than Oscar?
I think that's a very, very good way of putting it, actually. He has been so much in control, not just of the match, but of his own tempo, his own emotions. It's been extremely impressive, and it looks now as though he's heading into the last 32 and a clash with Denmark's Mickey Kraus.
You know, 2 players that have spent a lot of time on the World 9-Ball Tour playing many events, so should be a pretty class match. Of course, he's got to get through this last rack.
Joshua Filler also looking for one more rack. He's coming good towards the end against Paul Song and now leads 9-7. Well, Well, maybe we are going to be here for another while yet, Jeremy.
Yeah, he added a little inside spin there. And I think it was required, maybe not that much. Could have handled quite a bit of a cut on the 7 to work the cue ball. And just a rare miss, it seems.
Okay, so that's really 2 racks in a row now. Dominguez has had the opportunity to get this done. So, second time in the match that Lechner has won back-to-back racks. But they are the only racks he's won in this contest. 9-4 to Dominguez. I guess this is really what I was talking about earlier, Jeremy. Say Dominguez now wins it in the next rack. Will Lechner feel any better losing 10-4 than he would have done at 10-2?
No, I wouldn't think so, no. Especially, you know, maybe, you know, if he just didn't get any shots at all, but the chances he had early to really make a much different tone in this match, at least on his side, I think is going to be the reflection he has.
Naoki Oi and Mieszko Fortunski, 2 very capable players. They're level at 7-all. Oliver Szolnocki continues to strengthen his grip on the match against Jan van Lierop. 7-1 now. Ko Ping Chung looking for a couple more racks. In fact, just as I say that, he's got to the hill at 9-3 against Jack Whelan. Fedor Gorst has finally hit the front against Stephen Ellis at 6-5. Anthony Braben 8-4 ahead of Zhao Grio. Victor Zielinski set for a comfortable victory over Alvin Anjito of Indonesia. That's 9-1. Joshua Filler, as I said, is on the hill at 9-7 against Paul Song. Pius Labutis and Wu Kun Lin are 3-all. And Mustafa Alnar has a 2-1 lead over Aloysius Yap. And one more score to update you on. Tyler Steyer of the US and Ivo Arts of the Netherlands have shared the first 2. How's this turned out, Jeremy?
Well, great break off. A lot of action on the 9. He's going to get an easy safety to start, so should have Oscar up against it as he comes to the table. Oh my. That tells us anything about this match. That's pretty much the postcard of how this match has gone. Really routine safety there. Maybe trying to get a little more out of it than he should, but should have never missed the snooker.
Well, it was a 3-ball that brought an end to his big comeback against Alban Ocean at the World Masters. It may be a mistake on the 3 that nips his attempts at a recovery in the bud here. But plenty for Dominguez still to do.
Yeah, sizing up how he wants to shoot at this. It will be shot at to the upper left. The 8 wasn't there. I think he stuns the ball. 2 rails, side rail, in rail, and up to the center. A little thin to maybe draw. I think he can still stun it, though.
Well, that's quite a roll.
Yeah, and I think him pointing his cue to the center of the table, maybe recognize, try to do too much with the cue ball. Try to get too good on the pink. Did get a bit of a roll, but I think Max has an edge. If he has an edge of this red 3, he's got to hit it nicely, but I think there is a bit of a safety there. He's kicking at this, trying to create some luck. Yeah, this is going to serve up an easy one.
Anthony Braben now on the hill against Xiao Griot at 9-4. Winner of that will take on the winner of the all Hong Kong clash between Robbie Capito and Lo Ho Sum.
Yeah, and Braben, super talented, must be really having a good week, because I thought Grillo playing very strong overall. Actually, this is going to get a little straightish over the 8 as well. Needs a big bounce. Did get the left side of the cue ball though, so that'll help. Some friends were going over, you know, what kind of odds would you put on the matches, looking at that final 64, and really had Grillo a little favorite in that match against Braben.
He's looked just a little bit anxious to get it finished in the last couple of racks, so now that he's got a chance to do that, I don't want to give himself the opportunity for any further anxiety. If he loses this rack, then it's 9-5, and just the first little bit of doubt might start to get into his head.
Well, just like we discussed in so many different ways, when the pockets are like this, of course, your player can give you a lot of chances, but you still have to knock the balls in. That's the beauty of the tighter pockets. Really no gimmies. Now, it looks like he's trying to simplify this shot, trying to hold it with a little draw instead of just going through the ball with some top spin. Maybe there's a hair more angle there than it appears. Is he going over short side on the 6? Yeah, getting across this finish line has become some kind of problem all of a sudden.
He was so dependable for so much of the match. He wasn't missing anything that you didn't expect him to. Now he's missing quite a few.
I think that ball sat on the fence as far as trying to move it over or hold it. I thought that's why I suggested maybe short side on the green 6. Looks like maybe a bank here. Oh no, he could cut it. I thought so.
Well, Eklund Kachi and Mario He can linger over lunch a little bit longer, as there may still be plenty of pool left to play here. Or maybe not. Wow.
Yeah. Didn't expect that at all, that's for sure. He's had some misses we didn't expect, but again, maybe that tells us a little more of the story of this match here for Mad Max.
A couple more winners to tell you about. Ko Ping Chung has seen it out at 10-3 against Jack Whelan. He'll now play either Oliver Szolnocki or Jan van Lierop. Looks very much like Szolnocki at the moment. And Victor Zielinski has ended the run of Indonesia's Alvin Anggito 10-2 and will now play Carlo Beato. Well, the way things were going for Dominguez, I was starting to feel that he needed an easy chance to get this finished, and that's exactly what's been handed to him. Max Lechner, as nice a guy and as friendly a guy as you could hope to meet. I think even he is going to find it hard to be much company after the way this match has gone. But really, in the end, it's all about this American. And as the 9 wriggles in, it's the end of what overall has been a star performance from Oscar. Dominguez is the winner by 10 racks to 4, and he is through to the last 32. And next up on the main table will be the defending champion, Eklund Kachi, taking on someone who's eminently capable of winning a tournament like this, 2-time World Cup winner, Mario He. That will be along in a few minutes' time.
I'd have loved to have seen America versus the Philippines, Europe versus the Philippines.
And I think there will be the winner of the Mosconi against Asia or against the Philippines at some stage. There's a different tournament.
There's definitely something on another event to do with Asia versus the Mosconi Cup winner, and that's all part of the bigger plan.